Hi YouTube, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can visit me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. So today we're going to continue on with our knife edge retention tips. I believe this one's going to be number 10. Number 9 was all about angles. Number 10 is going to be about practice. Okay, they say practice makes perfect. They say perfect practice makes perfect. They get all kind of, sayings about practice, right? Most of them are probably true. When it comes to knife sharpening is definitely a skill that goes away if you don't use it. All right, it's just like riding a bicycle, driving a car, any of that kind of stuff. You can go, 10 years without riding a bicycle. You jump on a bicycle, things might be a little bit squirrely for that first block or two, and then after that you kind of remember, and then you'll be riding, but you might not ride at the same level as you did when you were 13 years old and you jumped on your bicycle and you rode all around town and you jumped over curbs and jumped over other stuff, jumped on ramps, all that kind of stuff. The more you practice and the more current your practice is, the better results you're going to have with knife sharpening. Sorry, I talk to you guys more than I talk probably the rest of the entire day. If I shoot a 10-minute video, I talk more in that 10 minutes than I probably do the rest of the entire day. So I get a little bit coughing and dry and all that kind of stuff when I shoot these videos. Now you guys know I'm a knife maker, right? So I sharpen stuff all the frickin' time. Sharpen my own personal knives, I sharpen the kitchen knives, I sharpen the knives that I make, I sharpen knives that come in for repair occasionally. Buddies come over and they want to learn how to sharpen, and so I help them out with sharpening, all that kind of stuff. So I sharpen a lot. I could still use more practice. It's just the name of the game. It's kind of like our steps, you got to take those, you got to do those step countings for your health insurance stuff. It kind of seems like a big old pain in the butt, but honestly, who of us cannot use extra steps? I mean, maybe, young, 20-something and younger guys that are constantly busy all the time, but, the rest of us who are, working like physical work plus paperwork and everything, we could all use more steps. Anyway, so practice sharpening. Not only practice sharpening, but practice sharpening each particular knife that you carry and that steel type, okay? So you guys know I typically carry, a couple of knives with me every day, right? Well, this knife right here is my Benchmade 940 with a blade that I made out of 1095 because I honestly really didn't care for the 154 CM or the S30B that they put in these from the factory. That 1095 sharpens a lot differently than the softer stainless steel in my Victorinox pocket knife, okay? And then not only do they sharpen differently, but in this pocket knife, I've got the main blade, and then I've got the fine blade, okay? I run two completely different edges on this knife, and then both those edges are a little bit different than this knife right here. So the more you sharpen, the more you find little little changes, okay? So like my 1095, okay, this is probably the steel that I sell the most, the steel that I work the most, and I love it. 1095 is a great steel. When you sharpen 1095, especially this 1095, I run it at 62, 63 Rockwell, somewhere around in there. It comes to a really nice edge that is very, very crisp, for lack of a better term, okay? The burr comes up easy, the burr weakens really easy, and then the burr shears off, which is most of the time I do a micro bevel on diamond stones. The burr shears off just as clean and as crisp as you could like, and leaves an edge that 1095, I mean, I make a lot of straight razors out of 1095 with the same heat treat that's in this pocket knife. I don't change my heat treat on 1095 for the style of knife I'm using. I just changed the geometry of the grind and the blade thickness and everything. But 1095 comes up, or my 1095 comes up to a real crisp edge that holds an edge for a good amount of time, is easy to resharpen, takes a fair amount of abuse. It's just a very crisp edge. Okay, the steel that are in these Victorinox Tinkers, it's great steel. It does not corrode hardly at all. I mean, I've never looked at it underneath the microscope, but I've never seen any sort of rust on any of this. The steel is quite a bit softer. I'm not even sure what grade of stainless steel they use on this. It's quite a bit softer. So when you sharpen this, a burr will come up real easy, and the burr will lighten up, you know, as you refine that burr and get it ready for removal. But then when you go to remove the burr on this stainless steel, it wants to hang on. Okay, it doesn't come off as cleanly as 1095 or honestly the other high carbon steels that I work with. And so that can give folks a little bit of trouble, you know, if they're not used to that. And a lot of that boils down to just plain old practice and time spent with each one of your knives that you use on a regular basis. Things like these old Hickory kitchen knives, these things are, man, these are awesome little knives, especially for the cost that you give for them. They are, I believe they're 1095 or 1084, somewhere around in there, but they're run to a quite a bit lower hardness than what I run 1095 at. These knives, honestly, these are the knives that this country was built upon. I mean, these knives were in the kitchens, you know, cooking the meals that provided everybody energy to build our nation. And they come to a burr easy, really easy. That burr will lighten up and, you know, get prepared for removal real easy. And the burr wants to hang on just a little bit. I mean, it doesn't hang on as bad as this stainless steel does, okay? And it does come off, but it comes off kind of okay clean, and then just needs a little bit of work, you know, after you remove the burr to, you know, to bring it up to a razor. But you'll never know how those different steels react to your particular stone and your sharpening method unless you put in the time and you put in the practice. And then once you practice enough, you'll start finding out little stuff like that. You'll start thinking, okay, well, you know, I can run two different edges on my Victorinox pocket knife. You can say, okay, well, my kitchen knife, you know, it needs this particular angle and this particular edge finish to do the work that I want it to do in the kitchen the best. Your pocket knife, you can say, okay, well, you know, I do like a nice thin edge, you know, for ease of cutting, but sometimes I kind of get a little bit haywire. This knife right here, I've worn out 2 blades on this from the factory. The reason I did that is because when I bought this blade, I was doing an awful lot more handyman and rehabbing type work than I am now. So I ran a little bit thicker edges, but I didn't abuse the knife, but I did use it to its fullest. And so I wrecked an awful lot of edges and sharpened it up an awful lot. And that's just how you wear blades out. Nowadays, typically if I'm doing an awful lot of rehabbing work, I'm carrying 2 or 3 extra knives, and that way I can, you know, rotate them out. So this one doesn't get quite as much abuse. But anyways, so practice is where it's at. And the more you practice, the more you find those perfect edges for your knives, and the better edge retention that you'll have. So again, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can visit me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you next time.